ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः. So this is will now continue the conversation that took place on the 8th of December 1880 8th of April 1883. That is from the second part of the five-volume edition of Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, which is the translation of the original five-volume Bengali edition. This, of course, does not follow a chronological sequence. That's why you will find conversation dated suddenly after 86, it may go to 83. For some reason, as I mentioned earlier, Master Masha had his own plan how he wanted to classify or maybe arrange the different conversations that he recorded on different dates. It does not strictly follow a chronological sequence. So anyway, the topic was Adhar's second visit, Adhar Lal Sen, who was a great devotee, and after Balram Basu's house in Calcutta, which was a place where Sri Ramakrishna used to often go, because he felt that it is so difficult for people to come to Dakshineshwar, because most of the uh, people who had middle in they belong to the middle income group. Some of them could not afford a carriage or any other means of transport to come to Dakshineshwar. So he used to feel that he could go to Calcutta himself, and the host would pay the carriage fare, and mostly it was Balram Bose's house, which they say, according to some record, he has gone there more than 100 times. Perhaps that is the only house. He never traveled. Only when he had some program or something, he used to go to the devotees' houses. But he says in Balram's house, everybody, all the whole family, of course, it was a joint family. Brothers were staying together, they had their own families. But Balram Bose's entire family says there are only one or two such families in the whole of Calcutta where everyone is a devotee, everyone is spiritually inclined. So Sri Ramakrishna used to like to go there. And there was one another house which he frequented, you may say, but of course not as frequently. That was Adarlal Sen's house. He was a highly qualified uh, employee of the British government, and he was a deputy magistrate. Very few Indians rose to that level. And in spite of his uh, uh, qualification and uh, status in society, he was very humble and a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. Now, one of the visits, second visit, this is his, of course, Sri Ramakrishna is not visiting his house, but his house he has visited several times. Now, Adar is paying a visit at the Dakshineshwar temple. This is his second visit. And moreover, because he was so busy and he had the luxury of riding, he liked to ride on horses, he didn't normally travel in a carriage. And in those days, it was a fashion to travel on horseback, ride on a horse, and go to work. So he had the privilege, he had a horse, so he used to ride that. Un- Unfortunately, that was the cause of his death also. He had been warned by Sri Ramakrishna not to ride the horse. For some strange reason, he felt it was his privilege or something. But unfortunately, he uh, falls down from the horse once. There's a very bad accident and he dies. But this was before that, much before Sri Ramakrishna warned him. But he was a great devotee, and Adarlal Sen has now come. And so many questions have interesting questions are being asked. And Sri Ramakrishna is coming to the conclusion that ego is not a problem as long as it is the ripe ego. It is only when the ego is raw. Raw means we used to classify ego in two types of ego. Everybody has a ego. Ego is something which it is difficult to get rid of. In the morning we discussed the whole concept of antakarana, or the internal instrument with which we perceive the world, is made of four basic constituents. Our mind. We call it mind in English, but it's a very complex instrument. It is known as antakarana. Karana means a cause or an instrument which causes you to interact with the world. And anta means because it is interior, it cannot be seen. It's not an instrument like the ear, the eyes, through which we can see. But the four parts or the four aspects of the same mind are first manaha, the mind which sees, which receives all the signals from the different sense organs, processes it, and gives a response. Very often the response is instinctive. That is why we call it manaha. It requires a buddhi, development of that same manas, which is rarefied, or you may say more subtle, which develops as you practice, do spiritual practices. That same manaha or that same antakarana, some part of it becomes refined. And that buddhi controls the lower aspect, the gross aspect of the mind. Just as our prana controls our lung, our movement, our prana controls many actions of our body, digestion, circulation of the blood and other things, heartbeat. Similarly, the buddhi controls the functions of the mind, when to react, whether to react quickly, whether not to react immediately, just wait. That wisdom, that buddhi, is something which is more subtle. Then there is another important aspect which is known as ahankara, that is I, the feeling of I. Even that, Sri Ramakrishna says there are two types of I. I is something which, till you have the mind, you will have the ahankara. Till you have the body, of course, and also the mind. So the mind feels I am thinking, I am reacting. So it is because of this I, most of our actions or the reactions of the manas are determined. So it requires buddhi to control this I, ahankara. But Sri Ramakrishna says, as long as one retains this I, and that goes only when the mind gets dissolved. But that is not going to happen. So what will happen to the I? Along with the mind and buddhi, we have to take care of the I. So that I-ness, Sri Ramakrishna, for a change, everybody hates the idea of ahankara. Ahankara is considered to be something which is not good. In Indian philosophy or Indian scriptures, you will find, oh, ego is a big problem. According to Western psychology also, ego is the problem, but not so serious a problem as Indian philosophy and Indian Shastra say. But for the first time, Sri Ramakrishna says ego should not be a problem if you handle it properly. Ego is a problem, no doubt. If it is used in a negative way, if they say your ego increases in a negative way, then you react in a, you always tend to react more than others, and then that causes problems for you. But there is another ego. He says there is a ripe ego and a raw ego. This is first time. You will not find it in the scriptures. This is Sri Ramakrishna's own insight. he has found a way how to handle this ego. So he says, ego by itself is not a problem. It's the raw ego or the negative use of the ego that is a problem. If that same ego is converted into a positive one, that is ripe, it's like a raw mango and a ripe mango. Raw mango is, of course, not so tasty, but when it becomes ripe, that same fruit changes its taste, and it becomes more useful. So a ripe ego is that ego which which considers oneself as the servant of God or as a devotee of God, or whatever be the attitude of that ego. It is subservient to some higher power whom we call God. So he says that is not the problem. If you think you have a ripe ego, or if you cultivate that ripe ego and not stick to the raw ego, then that same ripe ego becomes a means for a part of the antakarana which can help you to realize, to get rid of misery. So as I said, one is the manaha, reactive mind. Then we have ahankara, ego. Then we have what is known as buddhi, as I told you, one which is very subtle aspect of our mind, which comes as a result of long hours of meditation and sadhana, any type of sadhana or upasana. And then we have something known as chitta. Chittam. Chittam means the mind stuff. So in the morning in Raj Yoga we discussed why it is known as chitta, because it is the mind stuff, the old sanskaras or whatever you possess as a result of your several lives of thinking, acting, reacting. So all that stuff is not going to go. It remains in a subtle form as the mind content. And as your chitta is, that will determine the nature of your mind. No matter what you do in this life, those old samskaras refuse to go away unless they are taken care of and unless they are uh, dealt with some kind of spiritual practice. The main reason for doing spiritual practice is to control the vrittis. Yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. So when the vrittis come, when the thought waves come, they come because of the chitta. But if the chitta itself is modified, then you have control over our vrittis, that is thought waves. So the whole spiritual practice uh, is because of the raw or ripe ego, the reactive nature of your mind, the development of your buddhi, and finally the content of your chitta, which you have inherited. We call it karma, karma samskara, or just samskara, which you have inherited because of the past karmas. So it is known as, because it is cause and effect. Some cause was there. You have done. A person has done a lot of good or bad things. So the sum total, they are the causes for our future actions, which is determined by our thoughts. So though we think these things are automatic and we will be like machines, in a way it is true. We are machines in the hands of our chitta, the old samskaras. But we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry because as it is not something which is static, it is highly dynamic. You can change it. Change it with the help of a highly developed buddhi. Because the general rule is buddhi controls the manas, buddhi also can control the ahankara. Of course, ahankara should be positive ahankara, like pakami. So this example is worth understanding because this we will not find in the scriptures. Sri Ramakrishna had his own way of explaining things. That's why I'm just repeating, trying to explain the meaning of this. He gives a very, very drastic, or very though it looks a bit crude, but it is a very powerful example of how our ego behaves. He says how difficult it is to tame the ego, convert it from kacha means the raw ego to ripe ego. So he says in Bengali, hum, aham, hamba, or those sounds, they signify me. And there are two sounds he refers to. See how much Sri Ramakrishna is attentive. Even the two animal sounds, one by the cow and the goat, the sounds itself, he's seeing some meaning into that and comparing it with the raw ego. He says when the cows are full of ego, I mean, when we are full of ego, uh, it is reflected in the uh, cows call. I mean, cows like to shout hamba hamba. That is the sound they make. That is comparing to I. And the goats also bleat may. That is the sound the goats make. So may in Hindi as well as Bengali, it means I or mine. So I and mine. So for this reason, he says, see, this animal suffers so much. This ego will cause both the cow and the goat. In general, everyone suffers. And he is saying, how do they suffer? First, they are killed for their meat. Uh, Whoever, I mean, most of the countries they eat beef. But whether it's a cow or any other animal or a goat, they have to first be killed. They are killed. That means so much of suffering. First they are killed, then the butcher, that's not the end of their sufferings. After eating the meat, the skin also is taken away, skin is processed, and they make shoes, the drums are made of animal skin. So the hides are made. People use it for making different items, shoes and purses and all those things. So there is no end. That means he's just trying to graphically describe how much our ego hurts us, but yet we do not give it up. So just to graphically describe this, though it's a very crude way of describing, he says in the Hindi language, this is Sri Ramakrishna saying this. In the Hindi language, hum and may both mean I. Hum means I. May also means that may. So that both are used. So he's saying even a goat when it is shouting, it is expressing its ego. And human beings are like that. The uttering of may leads to more suffering. The goat is slaughtered, its skin is used, just as the cow's meat is taken and then the skin is used. And then with all the drums and shoes, so he says even the skin is trampled upon. Every day people torture that skin. It's just a figurative way of telling how much trouble it gives a human being, this ego. So people trample upon it, like where people wear shoes, and it is not spared. Not only that, the drums are beaten. You have to beat the drum to make the sound. So even the skin is beaten again and again. A whole life it is tortured. Then finally, when does the suffering end? He says when the carder means if you have seen the villages of India before these machines were invented, they used to manually make a thread for preparing for manufacturing clothes. There was a carding machine, and it's just like some musical instrument. They had a string in the bow. It's like a bow, and the cotton is has to be carded. There is a particular technique. Unless you see it, you will not understand. It has to be carded, and the string that is used has to be a very strong string. It cannot be metal. So normally they use or they used to use carding is not so popular now. So they used to use the skin of the intestine of the, so even the skin is not spared, the flesh is eaten, and then the intestine, the long intestine, they somehow take use that to make the guts of these animals are used to make that string. And from that, the carder uses. It's at that time, at that stage, when the whole ego gets such a big thrashing, and that animal has completely been destroyed. Even then, at the last stage, when the guts are also used and the carding is done, it gives a different sound, not may or hum or hamba or those sounds which are made. That I changes into tuhu. That is the sound. If you just listen to the sound, it gives a sound which resembles tuhu. Tuhu means you. In Hindi and as well as Bengali, it means you. So, his observation, Sri Ramakrishna is trying to give a graphic description. As I said, it's a crude example way to, but it remains in your mind. The idea behind these parables is give these examples so that every time you have a tendency to assert your ego, you will remember this graphic example. Oh, I am like this cow which has been tortured, which has been killed. So it's a very great uh, example which has a lot of psychological impact. And you then try to detest your own ego and try to convert it into tuhu tuhu. Tuhu tuhu means, depending on the Lord, repeating his name, having bhakti for him, then that raw ego, which suffered so much, finally, when the sound changes, then it becomes you. It is only when the one says tuhu you means God in this case, that one is saved. And then there is no more suffering. Progressively, that suffering goes. Oh Lord, you are the doer, and I means the small ego is not the doer. This is what constitutes jnana, spiritual wisdom. So he comes to this through this graphic description of this particular incident. He shows that we will suffer all our life like the goat or the cow. It is only when you produce the sound of tuhu, when you realize that it is the Lord who is the doer, my ego, the small ego, the raw ego, with which I hold so dear, we don't want to give up that ego, that causes lot of suffering till you give it up. Then he gives another example, two examples. It is only when you become lowly that you can rise. The chatak bird has its nest near the ground, but it can soar at high altitudes. Chatak is a bird which they say doesn't drink water from pools or water bodies on the earth. Though it always lays its eggs, obviously it cannot lay its eggs in space. So it has to come down to do everything, but when it wants to drink water, which saves it, it has to fly high. The higher it goes, that's how they say. We do not know it's biological, but that is how the Indian myth and the myths that are built around certain animals like chatak bird. So that bird goes very high where the clouds are there, and when it rains, it drinks that pure water. It does not drink water which has been contaminated by the soil. So even though the bird stays below, it only helps you if you rise, if your kacha ami or your raw ego becomes ripe, it goes higher and higher uh, because of your spiritual practices. That ego gets transformed, and then that sustains you like this bird. Then he says farming is also not possible on a high elevation. Obviously, unless you have, you can find out ways and means to retain water on the hills. It is so difficult. Water has a tendency to come flow down. So only on low land, for example, rice cultivation, everything is done on low land where water stays. Otherwise, if it just drains down, you can't grow cultivation is not possible on the height of the mountain. So that means if you are humble, if your ego is reduced, then the grace of Lord comes to you. You can cultivate fields. Everything is cultivation is possible. Possible. Now he is mm, discussing another topic. Now I just recapitulated what we discussed last time. Now the heading is Company of Sadhus essential for householders and who is truly poor. There are two topics. We call a person poor. How do you determine if he is really poor? What does poverty mean? Is it lack of money? So he'll answer that. One should take a little trouble to seek the company of the holy. At home, one naturally talks of worldly matters. There is always one ailment or the other. The parrot says Rama Rama only when it settles on a perch. While it is flying through the jungle, when it is encountering danger, it only squawks. When it is relaxed, when it is peaceful, I mean, what the parrots do is when it is safe somewhere, it starts saying Rama Rama in the sense domesticated parrots when they come when they are taught they can be taught. Indian parrots, they are capable of repeating what human beings repeat. So if somebody repeats the holy name day and night, does japa and some chanting, the bird has a tendency to listen to that and just mechanically repeat it. So it says Rama Rama only when it is perched. That is when he is safe in some home or under the protection of some human beings. But when it is going I mean, when it is flying through the jungle, it is likely to be attacked by other animals, other birds, dangerous birds. So it can only squawk because it's terrified. So Sri Ramakrishna says that is why we should seek the company of the holy, because there you will talk, you will not squawk, but you will repeat, listen to holy talk, and will at least desist from worldly matters. That is what holy place means. Now, then speaking of poverty, he has his own uh, opinion, or he has his own advice how to judge who is poor. He says money does not make a man great. A sign of wealthy man is light in every room. Now he is giving an example. You have to understand it, not take the example literally, but always there is a figurative way of expressing some thought. So, which house is supposedly rich, because he doesn't, if a miser is there, he will not put on lights. He'll say, my money will be wasted if I put so many lights. A wealthy man is he who has light in every room. That doesn't mean if you have money and if you have more lights, you will be. What he's saying is the poor, normally poor in economically poor. They don't have money to spend on oil, and they are miserly also. So they can't have so many lights. You see, one must not keep the temple of body, the temple of, that is temple of the body. Body is compared to the external temple where the deity is inside. He said we should not keep the body in darkness. One must light the lamp of jnana, knowledge within. So that human being which always keeps the lamp bright, lamp of wisdom, lamp of repetition of the holy name, sadhana, upasana. So light up the lamp of jnana in the house, light the lamp of jnana in the house and see the face of Mother Brahmamayi. One more thing is the darkness of ignorance. When we are ignorant, it is compared to some kind of darkness. That is spiritual poverty. So, and it can be compared with the material poverty also, because in a poor man's house, he doesn't have enough money to light his house. So things are very dark. Similarly, in a wealthy person, a materially wealthy person, there is a lot of light. So also spiritual in the spiritual context also. One who keeps the light of jnana burning. That's why light of jnana means every time you do japa or every time you do prayers, every time you do sadhana, the main goal is that my, please enlighten my buddhi. You're telling your own mind that now your mind is reactive, full of ego, and full of the reaction of the chitta mind content. We do not know how our unconscious will behave because of our old samskara. So when all the components of the mind are so are likely to cause suffering and trouble, we want the light of buddhi, the light of reason, the light of upasana or sadhana, like the lighting the lamp of jnana in the house. You have to light the lamp of buddhi. That is why the Gayatri mantra, which is the meaning of Gayatri is the meaning behind all mantras that we utter. The same meaning is there. Dhyo yona prachodaya. That is why we pray to the sun god, because sun is the one who removes darkness. There is darkness all around. Requires a bright sun to dispel all darkness. So all mantras, all including the Gayatri, which is a great mantra, uh, is repeated for this spiritual light. So, what is the real meaning? So he says, light the lamp of jnana in the house, that is in the body, which is a house for the Lord to stay, and see the face of Mother Brahmamai. So you don't see the Divine Mother, you don't understand her actions and the impact she has on your life only because there is darkness. So that darkness has to be removed by the light of jnana. So then he says, what does lighting a lamp mean in the heart? He's trying to explain. And the subheading is real meaning of prayer. What do we pray for? What should we pray for? Or what is the prayer? And how does it help in spiritual awakening? So he says everybody can attain jnana. It's not the privilege of rich people or poor people. It has nothing to do with the external wealth. Everyone can attain jnana. There is this individual self, that is jiva, and there is this supreme being full of light and glory. That is how we describe the Ishta, or the God whom we worship. One must pray to God. In fact, this Gayatri is a prayer. It's not just a mantra that we repeat. Though it is known as Gayatri mantra, when we pray, so also all other mantras are prayer. When you say Namaha, means you bow down to that great light within, Ishta or whichever God you believe in, and in Gayatri mantra's case, it is the sun God. So you pray to the sun and tell him, please illumine my heart. Please light the lamp of wisdom in my heart. So that is the real meaning of prayer. So all prayers mean the same thing. We express it in different ways. So he says one must pray to God. Everyone can be united with the Supreme Self. It's anybody who does effort can destroy the darkness of ignorance in the heart and become spiritually rich by invoking the light. In the case of Gayatri, it is the sun god. Tat Savitur Varinyam. I worship that great light. Savitru. Savitri is the sun. It's the name of the sun, Sanskrit for sun. So I pray to that great sun god who illumines the whole universe, the whole earth. Let him illumine my heart. That is the prayer. Dhiyo yona, by illumining, by awakening my buddhi. Let that spiritual awakening take place, and let my ego be destroyed by this awakening of the buddhi. So he says, in those days there was no electricity, but every house, rich house, I mean, people who could afford the rich houses, they had to apply, and the gas was supplied through pipes. And in every house there would be some outlet where gas used to burn. So lamps had to be burned instead of burning candles. You can file an application. The company will arrange for the gas, Sri Ramakrishna says, and your house will be lit. The company has its office in Sealdah. Sealdah was that part of Calcutta. So Sri Ramakrishna is joking. You see, if you want light, then you have to burn the gas. Then you have to apply. That means you have to pray. You have to ask God. You won't get this gas free. You have to apply, you have to pay. Pay in the sense you have to repeat, do sadhana, upasana. So he says that is how you illumine your house. And everybody laughs because he gives this example that you have to apply in Siarda where the gas company's office was there. So before that, there's no chance that you can have light in your house. So some people may become illumined. That is, all can't afford it, but some can become illumined. They have a special mark. Now he's trying to list the characteristics of a person who is likely to light the lamp in his house. That means light the lamp in himself. So who are these people? Only some people will become illumined. And what are their characteristics? They have a special mark. Means they have a special characteristic. They don't like to hear anything but words about the Lord. They don't like to talk anything but of the Lord. Take, for example, the seven seas, the rivers, the Ganges, the Yamuna. Now it is coming back to that Chatak bird. So, worldly talk is like the rivers, the waters that have fallen down from the sky and have been contaminated. And they have become rivers, they have become ponds, they have become the sea also. Seven seas, they say, seven oceans. And the rivers of Ganges and Jamuna, they are full of water. There's no lack of water, there's no lack of common knowledge. There is science, technology, hundreds of subjects are there. You can read all your life, but nothing is going to change. But the Chatak bird just ignores all this water and goes and flies very high near the clouds and gets fresh rainwater because it can survive only if it drinks rainwater. It does not drink, it may die of thirst. See, he's giving such a graphic example, but it will not drink any other water. Even if clouds are not there, it will wait and wait and wait till it gets, because it knows that I can't drink this contaminated water. So also there may be plenty of knowledge of the world, but those who want to become illumined, they will focus on the real knowledge, which is spiritual knowledge. They don't want to discuss and waste their time discussing useless things. So the Chatak bird, which is a special kind of bird, which does not uh, drink any water which has fallen. That means the water which is contaminated by its contact with the earth, stored water. So one day, there is a beautiful Swami Vivekananda could not believe this. He was going to university, he had a rational mind. He said, how can it be possible? Every bird drinks water. So he was always doubting his guru. So Sri Ramakrishna believed because the scriptures say that. Whether that bird is does that, perhaps nobody has watched a chatak bird. It's a special kind of bird, small bird. It resembles a small squirrel, not squirrel, a small, I think there is a very small bird. I forgot its name. They look very sparrow. It's like a sparrow, a type of sparrow which is found in India. So they look similar, but they are not the same. So people who know about birds, they can identify whether it's a sparrow or a chatak bird. So one day, reading the description of the chatak bird, Swami Vivekananda saw a sparrow drinking some water from a pool. from a tank or from some groundwater. And he ran to Sri Ramakrishna. He was very enthusiastic, his doubting mind, because he was full of, he thought he was a very rational person. So, out of curiosity, he just saw this and ran to Sri Ramakrishna and said, I just saw a chatak bird drinking. That means what is said in the scriptures is not true. The chatak bird does drink water. So Sri Ramakrishna was also upset because he said, how can scriptures tell untruth? So he comes running. He said, he said, I'll show you. And then then he says, because Sri Ramakrishna was far better in practical knowledge. He knew nature right from childhood. He used to move around. He knew each bird by their name. And they say even he was so familiar with these birds and plants and he always used to learn from the University of Nature. That's what Swami Vivekananda said. See, our knowledge was second hand. Unfortunately, we just read other people's thoughts by reading books, and we thought we are very intelligent. But Sri Ramakrishna never maybe went to school or college, but his knowledge was direct from Prakriti, the mother nature. So he knew 100% that he could identify a sparrow. So he comes running because he believes he had great respect or great love for Narendra, that he would not tell a lie. But it was a case of mistaken identity. He perhaps was too theoretical. So he said, I have seen a chatak bird drinking, not drinking pool water. So he said, it cannot be. And he came running and he saw Naren, when he pointed out, said, you fool, this is a sparrow. I've been seeing this sparrow. Can you not identify a sparrow? It's not a chatak bird. Chatak birds are seen, but no one has seen these birds drinking water from the collected water on the earth. Some of it, they say, it drinks water only when it rains, goes near the clouds, flies very high. And then Sri Ramakrishna scolds him. He said, I used to believe you because you are such a sincere boy. And he respected Narendra because he was very honest, and he said, I will never listen to you now. You just are giving me wrong information. This is a sparrow. Can you not identify? So much Sri Ramakrishna used to believe. And whatever it is, whatever may be the biological reason, uh, this example shows that people who want to become illumined, they can't just be well informed in worldly ways. That is not the way you get illumined. You have to work hard. So there is a method to acquiring knowledge. It's not that spiritual knowledge is easy by reading books. So you have to, like the chatak bird, go high. Some people, that's why he says it's a creative minority which tries for spiritual wisdom. As Bhagwan Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, out of thousands who try to acquire spiritual knowledge, only a few succeed. Few take it seriously, and out of those few, only a few succeed. That means for most of the people who claim that they pursue spirituality, it is just a struggle. They don't know what spirituality is. Like Naren was saying that this sparrow is drinking pool water. So that wrong idea had to be dispelled by true knowledge when Sri Ramakrishna said, this is a sparrow, these are the characteristics. So he says some people may become illumined, that they have a special mark. They don't like to hear anything but words about the Lord. That is one sign that people will try to, who are keen to attain spiritual knowledge, they will prefer to spend as much time as possible in holy company. Now, the next, uh, it's a next chapter, but actually the same conversation is continuing. That's why I said he had his own way of classifying. Now we'll never know because he didn't. Mahendranath Gupta did not leave behind any notes why he arranged the gospel. So it is safe to assume one reason maybe he had different materials which he could not arrange chronologically because he was meditating on them. He wanted to make sure that whatever he had recorded in shorthand or in his diary was clearly the exact words which Thakur used were used in this were mentioned here. So that might have taken time. So he used to meditate on these diaries which he had. There were eight of them. He could have easily, they say, there was enough material to write. I mean, he composed five books, so two or three more books could have been written, but that was not Sri Ramakrishna's wish. So whatever little material or whatever material he had, you see, he came in touch with Sri Ramakrishna in 82 and 86 Sri Ramakrishna passed away. Late 82, 82 he came, 1882 and 1886 Sri Ramakrishna, August, he entered Mahasamadhi. So these are the only 4 years. So much of spiritual wisdom has been recorded by others. But if you consider the gospel, it is these 4 years. So out of these 4 years, because of the pressure of work and because of his inability to get leave from his very busy career of being the principal of a school, so he could record only these things. But whatever chance he got, that is the greatness. That is his greatness. The whole world is indebted to Mahendranath Gupta because he took his guru's word seriously. Whenever he got a chance, he was very Sri Ramakrishna was very keen that he should take the first opportunity to come here. He used to even make arrangements for his stay there. He said, "Why do you have to go home again and again?" Because he knew this person is a genuine spiritual aspirant. So he used to make all arrangements. Though Sri Ramakrishna was not in charge of the campus, the whole Dakshineshwar campus, he had to request the manager once or twice. He said, "Why do you have to go home?" He was so concerned about M. And you see, as a result of Holy Company, M created a place. He said, somehow you have to create a place where you can sit in solitude. So, in his own home, in his own school, two places which are the most noisy places, and with the type of family he had, obviously, with the type of wife he had, and the brothers and the relatives always quarreling, and literal hell. So, in that house, in the heart of Calcutta, where neighbors also, of course, were not very conducive to, that was not a spiritual atmosphere. Even if you go today, after it has been taken over by the monastery, the moment you come out the street from M's house, it's such a crowded area of Kolkata that you find where you're just coming into some sort of confusion and commotion, and so many things are going on outside. So you have to just run back. You can't even cross the main entrance. So once you go inside, you will find, imagine people in those days, his relatives. He, in fact, was so fed up of his house that he wanted to commit suicide. The condition, just imagine if that situation, the quarrelsome people living together in a house, joint family of those days. Imagine so much of misunderstanding and a nice, wonderful nature, gentle nature M had. He could not even react. So poor fellow one fine day decided to confide to his friend and ask him for some kind of help, and or worst situation he would have just jumped into the Ganga. That's the reason why he came to Dakshineshwar. But see the greatness, the importance of Holy Company. One meeting, the first meeting itself changed him. And then he slowly used to start coming. And we have these conversations because whenever he got leave, even for a few hours, though he was not a rich person, he used to somehow struggle but go to Dakshineshwar. He could not just avoid this. So these are the signs. He says he always liked to hear that If he could not create a proper atmosphere in his house, he saw one space which was in his house where nobody will disturb him, which is very near the terrace, where obviously nobody would go and harass him. He would go there, created a small corner for himself, and spend most of his time meditating on this. We have the gospel today because all the notes which he wrote down in his diary, they had to be meditated upon. Otherwise, how can he remember all these dialogues? He had some small library there. If you go there, you will find there was enough space for one person to sit at least, if not take rest, because that is the landing. After that, you go to the terrace. Nobody comes there. The first lower floors are fully occupied by crazy people and crazy relatives, and he had to isolate himself, find some kind of solitude within the house, within this crowded house, and meditate there. And with so much concentration, these 5 volumes he had to write. So one reason may be that he has did not have time to arrange it chronologically, which of course now it is done. If you refer to the Udbodhan edition of Kathamrita, like the English edition done by Swami Nikhilananda from New York, he had the privilege of arranging it in a sequence, day by day, how the things unfolded. It appears to be a very scientific way of arranging, but whatever be the reason, whether he was uh, in a hurry to publish, he just published the sequence in a different sequence. That's why sometimes, but one great thing is that one conversation he's dealing with one particular day continuously, though he has given different headings, different subheadings to show that Sri Ramakrishna often changed the topic. Now he was talking about the importance of name, repeating the holy name, and why holy company should be sought, the suffering because of ego. So many abstruse philosophical terms were explained to him by giving wonderful examples, which you will not find in any book, any scripture. It can be found only in the gospel. Many of these examples. You see, otherwise, this carding of that how a cow suffers, how a goat suffers, and listening to the sounds. No university professor, because he is speaking from his own experience. The University of Nature, where he kept his eyes and ears open, and he would observe everything very minutely, and in everything he used to see some kind of divinity. So that gave authenticity to Sri Ramakrishna's knowledge. And Swami Vivekananda said, whenever I approached, at least whenever he approached, he felt I was like a fool. Because many times he used to argue, like this case. He said, Chataka bird I've seen. Based on his inferior knowledge which he gained in the university, he was confident that I know better. Perhaps Sri Ramakrishna did not go to school. But he didn't know, he was much more informed. So he says, You fool, I'll never listen to you. Your knowledge is rubbish. You are calling a sparrow a chataka bird, because Sri Ramakrishna was so sure of his knowledge because it is direct knowledge. It's not something which he hears, like we now have a lot of information we can get from Google, but nobody trusts it. Because anybody can post anything and then you may think it is absolute knowledge. That's why Sri Ramakrishna spoke of direct knowledge, the experiential knowledge of spiritual reality, which has to be experienced. If you experience, then it becomes knowledge. If you say, somebody says this, some scripture says this, you are just parroting things. So it just like a parrot repeats without understanding the meaning. So that is second-hand knowledge. So experiential knowledge was what you will find here. That is why everybody, including Keshav Chandra Sen, the founder of Brahmo Samaj, used to come and sit at his feet. Though his disciples did not like it, that our founder should be sitting at a feet of an illiterate Brahmin, so a priest of Dakshineshwar. They were shocked because how can it be? He has spoken before the Queen of England. Is such an educated person. But he was genuine. Keshav Chandra Sen knew that the real knowledge is here. I might have acquired degrees, I might have spoken in front of the Queen, but that doesn't make he understood the importance of true knowledge. And not only that, so many other people came, scholars came, and they were very humbly, they used to listen to the original, uh, you may say, the direct knowledge that fell out from the lips of Sri Ramakrishna. So that is why Sri Ramakrishna, when now and then, he will not only give these examples, but sometimes try to change the very atmosphere by asking somebody to sing. Of course, it is not like a musician singing. There are many people who sing, but very few people sing with the type of devotion that is associated with it. One of these, uh, one of his own nephews, Ramlal, he was had a wonderful voice. He was a trained singer and a Brahmin brahmachari of the Kali temple. So they were practicing spirituality. So naturally, they are not just singers. They are living the life, and if they sing, it makes a huge difference. So Thakur used to love, and his choice was, I mean, most of the people who sang Trailokyanath Sanyal was a great devotee, and others people, he was very selective. Just because somebody had a good voice, of course, Naren was a good singer, but at the same time, he knew, if he knew of the spiritual background of a person, then he did not bother even if the singing is according to tune, according to all these things. Of course, he liked people who were talented and who could sing. So this song, this is a beautiful song of Kamalapati, which we'll discuss in the next class, because Kamalapati, the very word suggests, Kamala means, Kamala is the name of Lakshmi. So we had Lakshmi Puja now. Lakshmi is the goddess of fortune, not only goddess of wealth as people think she is. She is, so Kamalapati means Vishnu. So Vishnu and Lakshmi, they are always together. Wherever you worship, whenever you and wherever you worship Krishna, Vishnu, yeah, Kamalapati, I mean, Kamala, husband of Kamala is Vishnu. So Vishnu has different names. One of them is Kamalapati. Kamala means Lakshmi, and Lakshmi's husband. Pati means husband. So this Kamalapati is a name given by the poet to himself. It's a pseudonym. It's not his real name. Actually, his name is Dasharathi. Uh, so he is referring, see, it's not the name Kamalapati, he is addressing Vishnu by that name. So Vishnu has 1,000 names or even more. The different names can be created in Sanskrit language. So Kamalapati, the lover of bhakti, that means one who is not only full of devotion, but who likes devotees who are full of devotion. He is Kamalapati. If you dwell in the Vrindavan of my heart, my devotion to you will be like that of the chaste Radha. Radha had the devotion she had for the boy Krishna. That same devotion I will have if you reside in my heart. So only when I meditate on you in the heart, then that devotion will arise. Otherwise, just repeating the name will not be enough. My wish for liberation will be like the milkmaids. Milkmaids means the uh, gopis. Most of the people lived in Vrindavan and other places. They were milkmaids. The gopis were all mostly milkmaids. They used to have cows in the house, and they used to mm, take the milk and sell it and earn a living. So it will be like my wish for liberation will be like the milkmaids, and my body will be like the village of Nanda. Nanda is a village there, and my love will be like the mother Yashoda. That is where Krishna grew up. So just like mother Yashoda had loved her child, so also my love will be like that. So, seeing all these geographical locations, the poet Dasharati, the name of the uh, mm, poet here in this case, is singing a Bengali song. So, Dasharati is the poem. He says, O Kamlapati, the lover of bhakti, if you dwell, first you have to dwell in the Vrindavan of my heart. So, he's trying to bring one Leela Sthana. We call it Leela Sthana. The purpose of reading these books, reading the Leelas, Dakshineshwar, Jairambati, Kamarpukur, they are holy places which are not just geographical locations. A lot of drama, divine drama has taken place. Like Vrindavan, for example, like Gokula, where the village of Nanda, which is Gokula, where Yashoda played with her, I mean, where Krishna played and Yashoda took so much of loving care of her child, of her foster child, but she treated him with just as if he was more. He was more than Krishna was more than a real child. He was not a foster child. Anyway, that different leelas which took place several centuries ago, this poet is trying to recreate in the heart. When you say heart, it means internalize those ideas. So he says, my wish for liberation. He wants to aspire for mukti. How should it be? How intense it should be? It should be like the milkmaids, the elderly milkmaids. They were the gopis. The age of gopis ranged from somewhere 60 years old. They say if you go see the description, from 60 to middle-aged women, they were the real gopis, and Krishna was hardly 12 years. Now you see how this Radha Gopi, this Vrindavan Leela has been, you may say, uh, trivialized by the modern literature. Wherever you see a depiction in the serials and television movies, you find Krishna and Radha of the same age. It's stupid. He was 12 years old, and these gopis, some were old enough to be his great grandmothers. So that is what gopis were. And they loved, just like his mother Yashoda, they loved him. They could not the whole heart, he says, Dasharati says, my devotion will be like that of the chaste Radha. Radha, of course, compared to the other gopis, was younger, but still she was middle-aged. And she had a husband, she had a family, she had her own children. And they were so devoted to Krishna, they could not live for a moment without Krishna. So that is what Vrindavan Leela is. So he is trying to picturize that. He is trying to picturize the other scenes where Yashoda is running after the boy Krishna. And then he says, the boy Gopala. Gopala means one who looks after the cow. Go means cow, Gopala. So that is why they are milkmaids, they are shepherds, or they are cattle growers, cattle owners who are looking after their cows. So most of the children, the grown up children, his friends, Krishna's friends, they used to tend the cattle because that was their only wealth, that was the only source of their income. And the same Krishna, hold me, O Janardana. Janardana literally means one who, it's it's a name of Krishna again. Like we have this Kamalapati, husband of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. He is Vishnu, that is Kamalapati. Then we have other names. Janardana means Jana is a great demon whom Sri Krishna killed as a small boy. So Janardana means the vanquisher of the demon Jana. So Jana was killed by the boy Krishna. So he is also known as Janardana, one who killed the Janardana. Lift the mount of Govardhan. Govardhan was the hill when there was terrible rain. Once Indra decided, because people did not worship him, they worshipped Vishnu. So they say these are all stories, but they have a deep significance that we should not worship lesser deities. There is a tendency we worship Shani, we worship this god, that god, because they give immediate benefits. That's what people believe. So we worship Shani on Shanivar, we worship some other smaller gods because we want smaller things from God. And it's easy to please these smaller gods. That's why in those days everybody was worshipping, uh, instead of worshipping Indra, he said, "Okay, you are dependent on me." Indra was they call him the god of rain. So without him there won't be rain. So he was upset. That's how the story goes. That means other gods are tempting you, worldly people. Why come to us, pray to us so that we'll give you the gift. They survive on the prayers of these lesser gods. So Indra got angry and he said, "Okay, and you don't worship me, I'll stop the rain." So it says there was a drought. Or then finally, when he saw even that is not, because there is a river nearby, so people somehow managed to live, he started uh, pouring rain, said, "Now I'll create a flood. This whole village who did not worship me, they'll see my terrible form and then they will have to worship me." So Krishna saves them by lifting the Govardhana tree, they say, the small kid. So these are all, uh, you have to take, cannot take it literally, but he says, "Lift the mount of Govardhana, lift the mount of Govardhana of my weight. My sins are so much. My sins, uh, just like the pounding water, they were saved because he lifted the entire Govardhana and that became like an umbrella protecting the residents of that village. So the floods never affected the village. That is how the story goes. So also, indirectly, it means that this, just as Krishna lifted Govardhana and protected me, you lift the mountain of sins that I have accumulated. That means remove it so that I can mitigate the effects of the sins. So you just, because it's like a mound. I don't know how many sins I have committed. So you lift the mount of Govardhana, the weight of my sins will be less. It will not weigh upon me. So then kill quickly the six messengers of Kamsa, lust, and other things. Then play on your flute of grace and tame the cows of my mind. So he's comparing his restless mind like the restless cows. And the cows could be controlled by Krishna's flute. That's the idea. So if you play the flute of grace, that is, grace is like playing the flute, then the cows, restless cows, will become quiet. They will be disciplined. I pray that you remain in the pasture of my heart and that I may have the glimpse of my ideal, that is Ishta. So, this is a very poetic way of praying. Dwell now and evermore with your heart full of affection for your servant under the Vanchivatta of hope. Vanchivatta, a banyan tree, that Vanchivatta is a tree which they say it's a tree, it appears in his biography, tree in Vrindavan. He had a favorite tree. So after his leaving, at the age of 12 or 13, he leaves Vrindavan never to come back. So they used to all go, and the gopis, they were so upset, they used to go and sit under the tree expecting him to come and play the flute. So the banyan tree at Vrindavan, Vanshivatta, he said, "You be like that, you just give us shelter, the affection for your servant." That means we are all praying for your grace. And just as you played the flute under that big tree, uh, that is our hope. That is the tree of hope under which we are taking shelter. That's the idea. And if you say that you are a prisoner of the love of the cowherds of Braja, that is Braja Bhumi, the shepherd boys, then this Dasharati, bereft of all spiritual knowledge, will become a coward and your slave. He said, if if I become that, if you are going to shower your grace just as you did to all these gopis, to your friends, to your the friends, coward boys, they are known as Gopala. All of them, Gopala is a specific name of Krishna, but it means in general, anybody who tends cows, they are also known as Gopala. Go means cow, Pala means one who takes care of cows, who tends the cows. milks them and then sells the milk. All these things the cowherds have to do. They have to take the cows for grazing. So all the Gopalas, in fact, Gopala is not just the name of Krishna. It's one way of describing Krishna. That's why we call him Gopala. But Gopala can mean anything. So he says, like these Gopalas, if you say I'll become a Gopala, I'll do anything, I'll become a cowherd and your slave. If you shower your grace and love like you did for those people, I am ready. This Dasharati is the poem. So this song goes on. Thakur is either is no these two, Ramlal and Brahmachari is singing with the instruments and accompanied with banya. Banya is an instrument which means a semicircular instrument played along with the tabla. So it's like another instrument which this I have not seen this banya, but anyway, these were the this is the situation or the he has created a beautiful uh, description of what happened on that day. And then there is another song we'll discuss in the next class. This happened on 8th April 83. So Sri Ramakrishna sometimes he used to, if the discussion was very dry and people were, it was changing to gossip, he was very shrewd. He could stop that discussion and ask some singer who was there to sing, to change the mood, to change the emotions, so that the spiritual current is maintained. So that is how uh, this nice description, and which has been recorded by M primarily for his own use, but then now the whole world is benefiting. But for that, as I said, he had to go, come to Holy Company. That's why he says that Holy Company saved him. And not only that, after that, if he, the next best thing, if you don't have Holy Company, is to go to solitude. So, which he managed to find not only in his house but also in the school, where he could take all these notes which he had taken when he was in Holy Company of Sri Ramakrishna and meditate on there for hours and hours together. So, so much of effort has gone behind this. He spent till the last day of his life, he was reading proofs. He gave it to the press and died on the next day. The fifth volume which he was writing, in fact, he wanted to make sure that every word is correct. So he did not only wrote, he arranged it for composing the text. He read the proofs in the dim light. He was not a very rich person, but in the lamp, he used to read proofs even at an advanced age in 31, I think. And after he had given the last proof for printing, he sent it to the press. And when he completed his task, he died. It's a great life of Master Masha. So he was in the company, holy company, whether he was writing books, editing books, or meditating on these incidents in the isolation in his own busy house and the busy school where he worked. So he managed to find his own corner of solitude. In solitude, he could meditate on this, and we have this wonderful gospel. So, shall I? Any question is there? Yeah. So we are already late, so we'll conclude now. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu